back to your contribution to the IPCC. You have been invited to become an expert reviewer of the IPCC. You have submitted your comments, and I take it because of the fact that you have been invited that they have, of course, taken account of your comments, and that you was able to find them again in the final text of the IPCC report. Or am I wrong?
I think you mentioned this summary for policy makers, or what is known as SPM. The way I understand and the way the IPCC office or the IPCC bureaucracy works, and I understand you have written an excellent article about IPCC processes, etc. And a lot of scientists now are asking questions about the way the IPCC office operates. The IPCC defined scientists have produced some excellent documents of the science of weather and climate. But when it comes to summary for policy makers, this summary, about 15 to 25 page long, is written word by various country representatives and by bureaucrats and by managers of the IPCC. The actual lead scientists are not involved in that. So when the summary for policy makers is prepared, the summary seems to project a strong linkage to human added CO2 to the present warming. And so it seems to project a very one-sided view of the present climate change. And I think there is a need to broaden the summary for policymakers, and perhaps it should include some definitive statements about the uncertainty of this linkage and the possibility that the climate change may be more due to natural causes like the changes in solar variability and its possible impact on the Earth's climate over a long period of time.
So I don't think that the situation has changed quite a lot over the last few years, and that still the alternative hypothesis, that is to say that the influence, the impact of the sun is dominant, that this hypothesis is still taboo in IPCC circles. Do you have also that impression?
Yes, I think when I was invited to be the reviewer for the IPCC 2007 documents, I studied the 2007 documents very carefully. Previously, I have been working on these global climate and climate change issues primarily on my own since my retirement from Environment Canada as a research scientist in 1997. So I have extensively studied the 2001 IPCC documents, climate change documents, 2001 and also 2007. And in the science section of the document, they do extensively discuss the impact of solar variability and large-scale circulation changes and so on. But somehow in the final analysis, they give the impression that these changes are smaller compared to the human-added CO2 changes. And so the summary for policy makers come out with an impression that there is a strong impact of human-added CO2 on the Earth's climate, while the impact of solar variability and large-scale circulation changes is of a smaller magnitude. And in my opinion, that is not a correct assessment of the present climate change.
Nevertheless, you are one of the 2,500 scientists who have been involved in the reports of the IPCC. We often hear in public by the spokespeople from the IPCC that all 2,500 scientists are all in agreement, that the science is settled, and that all scientists agree.
Now coming to this 2500 scientists, I think several articles have come up recently, and a close analysis suggests that many of these 2500 scientists are in areas outside of weather and climate science. For example, they may be agricultural scientists, they may be environmentalists, some of them may be what is known as the ornithologists or migration of animals and birds. So many of these scientists have been studying the impact of climate change. So these scientists tacitly assume that the climate is changing and humans are responsible for the change. So they do not question this hypothesis.
They take it for granted.
They take it for granted.
They won't
That's why
criticize
it is an incorrect statement to say that 2,500 scientists support the view. No, a large number of them take it for granted that climate is changing. And I also accept that climate is changing. I do not accept the cause of it. So there are a core, maybe some 30 or 50 scientists who have prepared the first volume, The Science of Climate Change. And these are the core scientists who have provided the basis for this present hypothesis of anthropogenic global warming. But many other scientists who are involved in writing various chapters of IPCC documents more or less assume this. They do not question that. That's why it is incorrect to say that all 2,500 scientists support the human-induced climate change hypothesis.
So I understand that there is only a caucus of 50 or 60 scientists who indeed subscribe to this AGW hypothesis.
I think this is the way we climate skeptics now come to understand, that there is a core group of scientists who have prepared the basic document of science of climate change, while the climate change impact and mitigation and other documents are prepared by a large number of other scientists who do not question this climate change hypothesis, but they have been responsible or they are included in this IPCC exercise. That's why it is commonly stated in media and elsewhere that 2,500 scientists have put together this document that climate is changing and humans are not responsible. But I think in reality, there is only a core group of some 50 or 60 scientists who have prepared this basic argument. And in my opinion, the group of the climate skeptics group is increasing as more and more papers in mainstream scientific journals are now appearing, questioning various aspects of IPCC science.
You are here in the Netherlands. What are you going to tell us about sea level rise?
How much sea level will rise is a good question. But based on most recent studies, I think it is estimated that over the next 100 years, the sea level rise would be probably within about 20 to 25 centimeters at most. The projections of 1 to 3 meter rise or even 6 meter rise by James Hansen of NASA or by Al Gore in his movie are probably some sort of an extreme situations in which they speculate that a large chunk of Antarctic and Greenland ice would melt. At this point in time, the evidence does not suggest to that.